transferred to Manchester United today.
Football predictions.
If Barbarian no, Ipswich Town 1.
Football predictions.
Hi, it's Peter Guest, and I'm here with the Moose for another episode of the footballpredictions.net podcast covering Italy Serie A games for the 27th to the 30th of September 2024. What have we got lined up?
We have got AC Milan at home to Lecce. Inter Milan visits Udinese. Genoa takes on Juventus. Bologna takes on Atalanta. Top of the league, Torino takes on Lazio. Como takes on Verona. Venezia travels to Roma. Fiorentina travels to Empoli. Napoli takes on Monza. And finally, Parma takes on Cagliari.
Yeah, and you can also see the details for all these matches that we're about to discuss in the podcast on this website, footballpredictions.net, along with the fixtures from just about every other football competition in the world.
Yes, and on our website, it'll show you where to watch the games on local broadcast channels, plus video streaming services, as well as team news, match odds, and match odds from local bookmakers.
Yeah, and if you look in the description of this podcast episode, you can find direct clickable links to all of the matches that we're about to discuss. Geolocation and live streaming rules apply. 18 plus, gamble aware. First up, what a great game. We've got AC Milan 7th. We take on Lecce 17th. This is kicking off on Friday, 27th of September at 7:45 in the evening UK time. Go, of course, to footballpredictions.net on the page for this game to find your local kickoff time, all the betting odds and broadcast streaming options available in your area. I know this one's on Discovery Plus and TNT Sports 2 in the UK, but you can also stream it for no cost, no subscription fee at Bet365. So if you're going to do that, use our bonus code FP365. AC Milan came off a pretty good win, didn't they?
They really did. They beat Inter Milan in the Milan derby 2-1 last weekend. And what a win that was for AC Milan, because actually prior to that game, they'd only won one of their first 4 matches. And also they lost at home to Liverpool in the Champions League. So it's not been the best of starts for AC Milan. However, prior to the Inter Milan game, which, by the way, we said both teams to score over 2.5 goals in that game, also has to be said that the Champions League result, we said they were going to lose 2-1. They lost 3-1. So again, we predicted Liverpool to win. We said over 2.5, and we said both teams to score. Now, in the latest home game, we said Milan was going to win their first game of the season. At that point, we said 3-0 against Venezia, and they won 4-0. So no both teams to score over 2.5 goals. We called that one as well. We also called a draw at Lazio. So look, predictions on AC Milan has been pretty solid. They would have built a bit of definitely built a bit of confidence and momentum coming off the back of that win against Inter Milan last weekend, and 2 wins in a row in the Serie A. And they're playing a Lecce team who's only got 1 win all season, a win which, by the way, we said 1-0 against Cagliari in that game. They beat Cagliari 1-0. Beginning of the season, they lost at home to Atalanta and away to Inter Milan. Outcomes that we had, they had a shock defeat midweek at home to Sassuolo in the Coppa d'Italia. That would have dented their confidence a bit going into this game against AC Milan.
Yeah, I think in this game that we all probably agree that there's likely to be goals, and we think there'll be quite a few of them. So we've gone for an over 2.5 goals game. You can get odds of that at 1.53. Find all the information about that on our website page for this. But yeah, it's also undeniable that it's likely to be an AC Milan win. And odds of that, you can only get 1.33. But yeah, they haven't lost in the league to Lecce in the last 12 league games. So it's quite a long unbeaten run against them. And, you know, they haven't also been beaten in the last 5 league matches at home. And that excludes last week's derby because that was classed as an away game for them. So, yeah, it's going to be a struggle, we think, for Lecce. And we've gone for a 3-0 win as a correct score for AC Milan. Odds of that you can get of 9 or 8-1 in fractional. So, yeah,
Yes.
in our poll on our website, 79% of you believe as well that AC Milan will win. And only 10% think Lecce can get an away win, with 10% thinking, or 10%-ish thinking a draw. But yeah, overwhelmingly, AC Milan look to be the ones to win in this game. Let's crack on and go down to Udinese now, who are 3rd would you believe, above Inter Milan, who are 6th. It kicks off on Saturday, 28th of September at 2 p.m. in the UK. Find your local kickoff time, game odds, and all the available broadcasting streaming channels for this match on footballpredictions.net's page for this. Of course, you can see it here on Bet365. You can live stream it. If you're new to them, just use our bonus code FP365. So Udinese have done really well this season, haven't they?
They really have, because if we think about how they finished last season, they just beat the drop by 2 points. They just beat relegation by 2 points last season. And they've really started this season extremely well with just one defeat, but sitting third in the league with 10 points after 5 matches. And as well in the Coppa d'Italia, they are through to the next round because they beat Salernitana 3-1 midweek. We did say they were going to win that one. It's fairly predictable outcome of that game, but like we just covered, Lecce, who lost at home to Sassuolo from the league below. So yeah, these cup games can be tricky sometimes for these teams, but yeah, Udinese is through. However, they did come to their first league defeat of the season last weekend, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can bounce back from that, but it's not going to be the easiest game to bounce back from. We did say that they were going to struggle at Roma because we said Roma was going to get 3 goals. And Roma got 3 goals. It ended 3-0 to Roma. Yeah. So yeah, we said Roma win over 2.5 goals in that particular game. But yeah, prior to that, 3 wins on the trot, including a 1-0 home win against Como, which we said 1-0 in that game. So we had the correct score. For Inter Milan, yeah, if we look at their most recent results, it's not been great, but at the same time, they had who keeps Man City at a clean sheet at the Etihad. They had that 0-0 draw at Man City, and I think most of our listeners would probably have thought that they would have kicked on and beaten AC Milan, or at least not lost 2-1 at home. We did say both teams to score over 2.5 goals in that game, but maybe a little bit of a surprise that they lost that one. And actually now Inter Milan is without a win in the last 3 games. So yeah, 2 draws in their most recent away games, including Champions League and Serie A. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they get on at Udinese, but we think they will do fairly well against them.
Yeah, sorry, we do. It'll be a fascinating game, this one, I think. Udinese, of course, having such a good season, apart from that one blip that they had really against Roma away. But we think it's going to be a both teams to score game, this one, and you can get odds of that of 1.91. But in terms of the result, it surely Inter Milan can't lose again or get a draw. So they've got to really pull their fingers out for this season. So we think they're going to grab the away win. You get odds of that at 1.5, so not fantastically high odds. But yeah, Udinese haven't beaten Inter Milan in the last 3 league meetings, and but having said that, they're unbeaten in the last 4 league matches at home. So it will be close, or it should be close, I should say. But both teams to score, we're thinking in a fairly high scoring match. We go from the Inter Milan win. Correct score prediction, we think it's going to be Udinese 1, Inter Milan 3. And odds of that you could get for 12, so quite a lot, or 11 to 1. That'd be a good one to watch, I think. So yeah, if you can stream that or watch that on any channel that you can see it on, I'd recommend it. Next up, we've got Genoa, 16th, who take on a 4th place Juventus. Kicks off on Saturday, 28th September, 5 p.m. in the UK. Find your local kickoff time, game odds, and all the available broadcasting options for this match on our page on footballpredictions.net. Look at the clickable link on footballpredictions.net in the description. Of course, you can live stream this like all the Serie A games on Bet365. If you're going to do that, do use our bonus code FP365. So some contrasting forms here for these two.
Yeah, indeed. Let's start with Juventus, their away team, because after a winning start to the season, which we called again, we said they were going to beat Como and Verona, and both of them against with a clean sheet, and they won both games 3-0. However, the last 3 matches have now ended 0-0 for Juventus. It does mean that they're yet to concede a goal in their first 5 matches in the Serie A. So yeah, really, really hard to break down the Juve defense, but equally, Juve has also struggled with goals in their last 3 matches, which have included 2 home games against Napoli and Roma, and they're definitely not easy teams to break down. Napoli's also had a great start to the season, and similarly, Roma has only lost 1 game and only conceded 3 goals. Empoli is also one of the that was probably the biggest surprise, that they didn't manage to beat Empoli. But to be fair, Empoli again, one of the big surprises in the Serie A so far this season, not lost a game. But yeah, overall, Juve has not conceded a goal in the Serie A. When they do concede a goal, they did in the Champions League, which was against PSV Eindhoven. And what did we say? We said they were going to concede a goal in that game. We also said they were going to win. So it ended, we said 2-1. So we had both teams to score on over 2.5, but Juve to win. They won 3-1 in that game. We've also actually said that last week they were not going to concede. So low scoring games for Juve, difficult to break down. Definitely one of the better teams in the league. It's going to be a tricky one for Genoa, who in the last couple of games have also struggled. The last game in the Serie A was a 2-0 defeat at Venezia. We said under 2.5, and no both teams to score in that one. They did pick up a point, 1-1 at home against Roma, but then they also lost 2-0 at home to Verona prior to that. So yeah, just 1 point picked up from the last 3, and the only win of the season was at Monza, a 1-0 win in a game where we said it was going to end under 2.5 goals. So yeah, that's where we sit. So I think, yeah, this is kind of leading to a very narrow and low scoring game.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the fact that they've not conceded a goal all season, we think is probably going to continue, even though they're away. So yeah, this lack of goals from both sides really means that we're kind of everything's pointing towards an under 2.5 goals prediction. So that's our tip for this game. Odds of that you get at 1.62. I mean, fingers crossed, that should be the safest bet that you could look at here. We think it will be, there'll be a goal in the game, and we think it will go to Juventus. Odds of a full-time result of Juventus to win, you get at 1.7. So, yeah, looking at the other correct score prediction market, odds of 1-0 to Juventus, you can get at 5.5 odds. In our poll, user poll on the page for this, look at our links in the description. You can come to the page where it's at. The poll, 70% of people think that Juventus will get that away win, and 19% Genoa, with the remaining 11% a draw. You know, if it was a draw, it'd probably be 0-0 or 1-1, because it should be that low scorer, we think. So yeah, let's see how it goes. But yeah, we think Juventus will just sneak over the line. Next up, Bologna, 13th in the table, take on Atalanta, who are now 12th. Kicks off on Saturday, 28th September, 7:45 p.m. in the UK. Go to footballpredictions.net for your local kickoff time, betting odds, and broadcast streaming options available in your area. And of course, you can stream this one like all the others on Bet365. If you're going to do that, you're going to watch that, use our bonus code FP365 if you're a new customer of theirs.
Yes, and again, these are 2 teams that have had a very disappointing start to the season. Both teams were fighting for the Champions League spots last season. Obviously, Bologna did end up in the Champions League spots, and so did Atalanta. But yeah, the starts to this season have been very mixed, and it seems like they're struggling a little bit with this midweek European games. Although Atalanta did win the Europa League, so they should be used to it. However, earlier this week, they had a shock defeat at home to Como. They lost 3-2. Promoted Como got their first win of the season at Atalanta. So that was a big surprise. Prior to that, Atalanta had lost 1-0. They'd drawn Arsenal 0-0 at home in the Champions League. And although they did beat Fiorentina 3-2 in the Serie A, a game that we said Atalanta was going to win, they did lose their first they did lose at Inter and Torino. So it actually means that right now Atalanta is sitting on just 6 points after 5 games. In terms of Bologna, we said last week that they were going to start turning the season around, finally, with a win at Monza, and they beat Monza 2-1. So maybe a turning point for Bologna here, who prior to that not won a single game, including the Champions League this season. The away game prior to Monza was at Como, which we said it was going to be a score draw, and it ended a score draw at Como. The most recent home game, apart from the 0-0 draw in the Champions League against Shakhtar Donetsk, where, by the way, we said under 2.5 and no both teams to score. It ended 0-0, was a 1-0 draw against Empoli. So yeah, really mixed results for both teams. This is a very hard game to predict because they have high scoring games and really low scoring games but the low scoring games for both sides, by the way, in the Champions League which ended 0-0 was in the Champions League. In the Serie A, there has been goals for both teams in those. So yeah, but it looks like a really tricky game to call, this one.
Yeah, and we are thinking it might be a low scorer. We've gone for an under 2.5 goals game for this one. Odds of that you can get at 1.91. That's what we like. But if you're going to pick a winner, and if you like that win draw win market, we have gone for Atalanta to take the win. Excuse me. We've gone for an away win of a score of just 1-0, and if you'd like a correct score prediction, by the way, 8.5 are the odds you can get for that. On our poll, just looking at that, 52% of you also believe Atalanta will get the win, and 33% Bologna, with 15% on a draw. So, yeah, decisions are fairly split on this one. It could go any way of the 3 win draws or wins to the other side in this game. But, Bologna haven't won at home in their last 5 league games. So their fans can't be happy with that one, and we think that it might just continue on in this game. Yeah. But they have tended to do fairly well against Atalanta, though. They haven't lost to them in the league in the last 3 either. So, yeah, a very game where you could really almost pick anything. But, yeah, we like the under 2.5 goals market in this one. Atalanta to win, you can get at odds of 2.4. Next up, we've got league leading Torino, who are playing Lazio, who are in 8th position at the moment. Kicks off on Sunday, 29th of September, 11:30 a.m. in the UK. For this game, go to our page on footballpredictions.net, find it in the description, and it'll show you your local kickoff time, the betting odds, and available viewing options, one of which, of course, live streamed on Bet365. Do use our bonus code FP365 on that one.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, top of the table, Torino probably so far a big surprise of the season. However, we have only just played 5 games, so yeah, we need to take it still with a grain of salt. Torino also came back down to earth this midweek because they lost at home to Empoli in the Coppa d'Italia. We did say there was going to be goals in that game because we said both teams to score, then the 2-1 to Empoli. But yeah, apart from that, last week, Torino went to Verona and beat them 3-2. And then the most recent home game in the Serie A, it ended 0-0 at home to Lecce. Now, Torino has played some decent teams because at the beginning of the season, they went to Milan and got a point, and they beat Atalanta at home. So some strong results still for Torino here. And yeah, Lazio, they're coming from a Europa League win at Dynamo Kiev. They beat them 3-0 midweek. We said Lazio were going to beat Kiev 2-0. We said 1-0 to Lazio. So yeah, Lazio win, but a clean sheet as well. In the Serie A, we basically were spot on last week. We said Lazio were going to go to Fiorentina and lose 2-1, and lost 2-1 in that game. But yeah, prior to that, again, we called the win against Verona. We said it was going to be a draw against Milan. It ended 2-2. And beginning of the season was a 3-1 with a home to Venezia, and then they just had that blip in between, which was a defeat, 2-1 defeat at Udinese. I would say overall, when you look at Lazio, a slightly unpredictable team. They've had some good results against AC Milan, They do look stronger at home, it has to be said, because their two defeats this season have come away from home, but narrow defeats, 2-1 defeats at Fiorentina and Udinese. And it also has to be said that Lazio has scored in every single game this season.
Yeah, and good stat here is that Torino haven't been beaten in the last 8 league matches at home. So visiting teams haven't had an easy time of it here. And it's kind of leading us towards what we think will be an undefeated run continuing for Torino. Didn't say they're going to win. We think they might have a draw in this one. We've gone for a correct score prediction of 1-1. Odds of that you can get of 6 or 5-1. In our poll on the site, it's split again. Actually, only 39% of people think Torino will get the win and 52% Lazio, with the rest going for a draw. But we think it will be a draw, and we are sticking to that. We've got for a draw, you can get odds of 3.1, and both teams to score, you can get odds of 1.91. So we'll see if Torino can remain undefeated, and it'll be good for them if they can. We'll see. Next up, we've got Como, 15th, who had a bit of a surprise win, I think, during the week, playing Hellas Verona, who are currently in 10th. It kicks off on Sunday, 29th of September, 2 o'clock in the UK. Find your local kickoff time and game odds and all the available broadcast streaming channels for this match on our page. Find it in the link in the description on footballpredictions.net. And of course, you can stream this one live on Bet365. So how are Como looking there? In fact, they got themselves a win.
Yeah, and at Atalanta as well. So that was a great win for Como, their first win of the season. It actually took them out of that relegation zone. I know that it's way too early to talk about teams being around the relegation zone, but I'm pretty sure that for Como, that is something that they're looking at already, because they are a promoted team, and they would want to make sure that they can stay in the Serie A. And definitely, if they can keep pulling off results like they did at Atalanta, they will be in for a very interesting season. Prior to Atalanta, in the most recent home game for Como, they also picked up a really good point against Bologna, because remember, Bologna, they are playing in the Champions League. They did very well last season, so they'd be very happy with these last 2 games. We said it was going to end 1-1 against Bologna, and ended 2-2, so a score draw in that game. Prior to that, we said Como would lose 1-0 at Udinese, and they did indeed lose 1-0. Now, Como has actually only had 1 home game all season, so they've had a run. They started with a run of 4 away matches, including the Coppa d'Italia and some tricky ones as well, because they started their season in the Serie A at Juventus, where they lost 3-0, and we said 2-0 in that game. So yeah, on the Como and on the predictions, obviously surprised everyone at Atalanta, but overall been looking pretty solid on Como. It'll be interesting to see how they're going to get on against a Verona team who is very difficult to predict. It is either winning or losing for them, and it's not just winning and losing by small margins. Like beginning of the season, the beat Napoli 3-0, and that's actually Napoli's only defeat this season. And equally, Napoli since then has only conceded 1 goal. So yeah, that was a strong start. Yeah, strong result for Verona. But could they follow it up? No, they lost 3-0 then at home to Juventus, which we said they were going to do. And most recently, they lost 3-2 at home to Torino in a game where we said both teams to score. So yeah, mixed bag for Verona. Como looking to build on that little bit of momentum that they have from these games against Bologna and Atalanta.
Yeah, Cesc Fabregas seems to have got Como into a bit of a groove now. I mean, getting that win was obviously very needed. And, being at home and coming off the back of that, the fans are going to be pretty behind them and really happy with it. I think Hellas Verona might have run into them probably at the wrong time. So we think it's going to be a Como win, actually. You can get odds of that, Como to win, at 2.1 at the moment. But both teams to score is something we think is probably the most likely one for this one. And you can get odds of that at 1.95. So look out for that one on your odds and on our page on footballpredictions.net. The correct score, we have gone for 2-1 to Como. So tight, but we think they'll get over the line, score a couple. They're pretty good. They're starting to play well. They've got their local boy, haven't they? Patrick Cutrone, who's been banging a couple of goals. And maybe we'll get one here. Correct score prediction, 2-1. You can get odds of that of 9 or 8-1. On our site, in the poll, 45% of you believe Como will win, 18% Hellas Verona. So it kind of bears out what we're thinking. But quite a few people are also liking a draw. 36% look at a draw at the moment. So
yeah, interesting.
there's split decisions. But yeah, we think as well, like most of you do, Como should get the win. Let's move on now to Roma, who are 9th in the table, taking on Venezia, 18th in the table. This one kicks off on Sunday, 29th of September, 2 p.m. in the UK. Visit footballpredictions.net's page for this. Look in the description, you'll find it to view the kickoff time, betting odds, and broadcast streaming channels tailored to your location for this match, one of which, of course, is Bet365. You can watch this streamed from them. If you're new to them, use our bonus code FP365. So, how are we doing with these two?
Yeah, Roma's had a bit of a mixed, you can say mixed start to the season. I mean, look, they've only lost one game. However, they've also only won one game, and that does include the Europa League, where they only drew Bilbao. I say only, Bilbao is a strong team. They drew them 1-1 this Thursday. But yeah, prior to that, the most recent game in the Serie A we called, because we said Roma was going to really start to turn this around now, and they did indeed do that. They beat Udinese 3-0 last week. We said 3-1, but yeah, it was close enough. 3-1 win. Oh, sorry, a 3-0 win for Roma in that game. Prior to that, they had draws at Genoa, Juve, and Cagliari. So yeah, if we dismiss that 2-1 home defeat to Empoli would have surprised most people or most punters, then yeah, it's been a fairly good start still to the season for Roma, because don't forget that 0-0 draw at Juve, that's a decent point still to gain. But yeah, on the other side, we have Venezia, and they picked up their first win of the season in an under 2.5 game, which we said last week against Genoa. They beat them 2-0. However, prior to that, they'd had a terrible start to the season. Not that we didn't predict it, because we did say at AC Milan in their latest away game that they were going to lose 3-0. They lost 4-0. Prior to that, we said they were going to lose 1-0 at home to Torino. They lost 1-0 at home to Torino. And against Fiorentina, they did pick up a point, but we actually said, that they were not going to score in that game. But yeah, they managed to pick up a point. Beginning of the season was a 3-1 defeat at Lazio. So if we look at their away results so far this season, it's not been strong. In the Coppa d'Italia as well, they actually lost to Serie B side Brescia, conceded 3 goals. They lost 3-1 in that game. So 3-1 defeat at Brescia, a 3-1 defeat at Lazio, and a 4-0 defeat most recently at AC Milan. So it's not looking good for Venezia traveling to Rome in this game, because Roma is, apart from obviously the Empoli home defeat, it is a strong home team.
Yeah, I think Roma really need a win here as well. I mean, all these draws must be starting to get their supporters down. And we think they probably will edge at this one. I mean, if you look at it as well, Venezia haven't won away from home in their last 5 league matches, but they haven't won many in general, have they? So, and they've scored just 4 goals in the last 6 games. Conceded 11. So, yeah, we think that's not sort of looking like it's going to be a good day for them. And we've gone for, not surprisingly, Roma to win this one. 64% of you agree with that on a poll on the site. That's how many percentage of you think Roma will win. 14% Venezia, and the rest a draw. Most of which think a nil draw, by the way. Correct score prediction 2-0 is what we've gone for. You can get odds on that of 7 or 6-1. And regarding our tip, we think Roma to win is probably the safest bet. 1.4 odds you can get for that one. We also have a sort of second tip as well for this one, under 2.5 goals. Odds of that you can get at 2.1. So yeah, let's hope for the best for those tips and predictions, and that'll be an interesting one to watch. Next up, we have Empoli, who are 5th in the table, who take on Fiorentina, who are 11th. Kicks off on Sunday, the 29th of September at 5 p.m. in the UK. Go to our page on footballpredictions.net, find the links in the description, and you will find the localized kickoff times, odds, TV channels, and streaming services locally for yourself. One of which will be probably Bet365, who are streaming this one as well. use our bonus code FP365 if you are new to them.
Yes, and what a start Empoli has made to this season, including the Coppa d'Italia, because we said earlier, Torino is top of the league, and he actually went to Torino midweek to knock them out of the Coppa d'Italia. So an unbeaten start to the season for Empoli. But how long will it continue? We have been a little bit against Empoli so far this season. When they had the last home game against Juventus, we did predict a Juve away win. However, we did also say that it was not going to be both teams to score. We also said under 2.5 goals, and that game ended 0-0. Now, the other home game of the season, and this is obviously maybe a little bit ironic. We're saying that Empoli's had a great start to the season, but actually the two home games of the season both ended 0-0. So the Empoli fans, home fans, have not seen a goal yet from their team. All of the Empoli goals have fallen away from home, which is quite interesting. Fiorentina, really bad start to the season, or not a really bad start, because that would have meant a load of defeats. However, they did have some bad results in the Conference League qualifiers, as well as the Serie A, where they basically only managed to draw at home to Venezia and Monza, and they then lost their most recent away game at Atalanta, although we did say they were going to lose that game. However, we did also predict that they were going to turn their season around last weekend at home to Lazio. We said that Fiorentina was going to win that game 2-1. And did it end 2-1? Yes, it did. It ended 2-1 to Fiorentina in that game. So yeah, Fiorentina, are they back on track with that win? Are they going to kick on from that win at home to Lazio with that very late winner, actually, by Fiorentina? Scored in the 90th minute to seal that 2-1 win. But nevertheless, they got a 2-1 win, and we predicted it. And yeah, we are looking at a game here. It's going to be a really close game. I mean, all of Empoli's games have been close. Against Fiorentina, is Fiorentina going to be too strong for Empoli?
Well, first off, we think it will be a low-scoring game, this one. I know that Empoli do have a pretty good defence, but we've gone for an under 2.5 goals prediction in this one. 1.73 odds is what you can get for that. Not brilliant, but that's what we think. We think, though, it'll be an away win. Fiorentina will come there to Empoli and get the win. You can get odds on that at 2.2. It's going to be an interesting battle, but we've gone for a sort of very narrow 1 goal to win. Might come late in the game. Correct score prediction of 1-0 to Fiorentina. You can get odds of that of 7 or 6-1 on our poll. 44% of people believe Empoli will win. Fiorentina, 39%. So it's very split. 17% for the draw. But we're on the side of Fiorentina, but most just edging a few more of our voters here on the site, I think Empoli. So yeah, you may well look at a draw on that one as well. And a draw, of course, is pretty good odds. You can get a draw for 3.3. But yeah, we're going for Fiorentina, and let's see if that can eventuate. Next up, we've got Napoli, second in the table. We take on Monza, down in 19th. Kicks off on Sunday, 29th of September, 7:45 in the evening for us in the UK. Find your local kickoff time, game odds, and the available broadcast streaming channels for this match on our page. Find it in the clickable links below in the description on footballpredictions.net, one of which is Bet365. They're broadcasting all these Serie A games. Use our bonus code FP365 if you are new to them. Napoli have done very well lately, haven't they?
Napoli is looking really strong, especially after considering that they lost the first game of the season 3-0 at Verona. I wonder what the Napoli fans were thinking after that game, but have they turned it around? They've had some really strong results of late as well. They beat Palermo 5-0 in the Coppa d'Italia midweek. Picked up a point at Juve last week in an under 2.5 game. We said under 2.5 in that game. We also said that Napoli were going to beat Cagliari 2-0 and beat them 4-0 in that away game. We also said that Napoli were going to bounce back from that Verona defeat, didn't we? Because we predicted the 2 home wins against Parma and Bologna. So Napoli has had a really strong start to the season despite that defeat at Verona, but really at home they've been looking really strong. So 2 wins in the Serie A and then that win in the Coppa d'Italia, but 10 goals in total across the 3 games. And that's going to be really, really tricky game for Monza, because Monza so far this season have not won a game apart from in the Coppa d'Italia, where they qualified and then midweek they went through to the next round because they beat Brescia 3-1. We did say that Monza were going to beat Brescia in that game, so that did not come as a surprise to us. But yeah, overall, Monza has not won a game this season. Also struggling to score goals. They just scored 4 goals across 5 games. Their most recent away game included 2 of those goals. That was a 2-2 draw at Fiorentina. But yeah, in between that and Brescia, they had 2 games in the Serie A, which ended with a 1-1 draw at home to Inter Milan, which is an okay point from a Monza perspective. But then they lost 2-1 at home to Bologna, where we said also that Bologna was going to win that game. But yeah, overall, no wins on the board for Monza, and we don't believe that these stand a chance at Napoli.
Yeah, when you haven't won any games all season and you're heading to Napoli, that's not the place you want to be visiting, is it? So, yeah, we've gone for the kind of obvious Napoli to win. Odds of that, you can only get 1.36, unfortunately, but that would be probably your safest bet in this one. We also think it might be a low scorer. We've gone for an under 2.5 goals game, and odds of that you can get at 2.1. But yeah, we think it'll be on the upper end of that because we think it'll be 2-0 to Napoli. Our correct score prediction odds for 2-0 are 6.5 at the moment on Bet365. That is, I can see they are leading the prices there ahead of the other bookies as well. In our poll on the website, 67%, surprised it's not more, believe it'll be a Napoli home win, 24% Monza, with around about 10% going for a draw. So, yeah, should be fairly straightforward. Poor old Monza, let's hope for their sake they don't get too badly beaten, but we think they'll keep it down. They haven't been thrashed this season. They tend to be sort of have fairly competitive games, but they just don't seem to be able to win.
They got wins,
Yeah. Draws they've got, but not any wins. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. Next up, we have Parma, who sits currently in 14th, versus the hapless Cagliari in 20th position. It kicks off on Monday, this one, 30th of September, at 7:45 in the evening for us in the UK. On our page on footballpredictions.net, which you can find in the description of this podcast, you can find your localized kickoff time, odds, TV channels, and broadcast streaming services, one of which, of course, is Bet365. They live stream all the Serie A games. Use our bonus code if you're new to them, which is FP365.
Yes, and these 2 teams again not had the strongest start to the season, have they? I mean, Cagliari are bottom of the Serie A, scored just 1 goal in their first 5 matches this season, so by any means not great. When we talk Cagliari, they were struggling last season as well, but yeah, this season it looks like it's all falling apart for them. They did start the season with 2 draws, however, apart from Roma, which was a decent point to pick up at home, 0-0, then a 1-1 draw against promoted Como, which is a team really that Cagliari should look to beat. They then, most recently in the Serie A, have had 3 defeats in a row and no goals scored. So they're not scored in the last 3 matches, which has all ended in defeat. And we did call ironically, Cagliari has also had 5 home games and just 1 away game all season. So to still be bottom, having played four games in the Serie A at home and just 1 away, that's not a great indicator for the state that Cagliari is in at the moment. That 1 away game all season was at Lecce. They lost 1-0, and we said they were going to lose that 1-0. So in terms of Parma, again, it's a mixed bag when we talk about Parma, because they had a really strong win a couple of weeks into the season, or in the second game week, which was a 2-1 win at home to AC Milan. And AC Milan, we obviously covered earlier, they had a strong result at Inter Milan. So looking at it from that perspective, that was a great result by Parma. However, they've not been able to follow it up but they have also played Napoli and Udinese, who've both had really strong starts to the season. Most recently, Parma did pick up a point at Lecce. They got a 2-2 draw at Lecce in that game. But yeah, overall, really mixed bag when we're looking at Parma. But they're playing a team here, Cagliari, that can't score goals. They did win midweek against Cremonese in the Coppa d'Italia. That was fairly predictable. We said they were going to win that game, but we do believe that this goal drought that Cagliari is in the Serie A is going to continue, and they will struggle at Parma.
Yes, it's a very dry drought for them, isn't it? And we think it's going to be a low-scoring, rubbish quality game, but we think Parma is going to get over the line at home, and we think they're going to win this one. 2.1 are the odds you can get for a Parma win. But yeah, we think low scoring. So under 2.5 goals is probably a tip that you want to be interested in here. Odds again of 2.1 for that, if you're interested in that sort of market. Now, for a correct score, we have actually gone for a 1-0 win to Parma. And odds of that you can get at 9, which is pretty good, 8-1. So in our poll, 58% of people agree Parma will win. Only 8% like Cagliari to break their duck and get their first win of the season. And actually a whopping 34% of people like a draw, which you can see possibly happening as well, but I think maybe 0-0 or 1-1. So hence the under 2.5 goals you'd think would be probably the most sensible bet that we'd be looking at for that one. Just so you're aware, if you are going to watch any of these Italy Serie A games on Bet365, geolocation and live streaming rules do apply, 18+. Gamble aware and make use of our bonus code FP365 if you haven't already got an account.
Yes, and in the description area of this podcast, you'll find links to the fixtures we've just covered, and just simply head to footballpredictions.net website. That's where you can find the online sources to watch the games from your location via streaming and TV channels, tips for different betting markets, team news, plus the latest offers and odds.
Yeah, we also produce these podcasts for a number of competitions in addition to Italy Serie A, and you can listen to them all on podcast.footballpredictions.net or where you normally source your favorite podcast. Well, that's all. Thank you so much for joining us, and until the next one, it is
ciao.
Ciao.
A football prediction.